Hey guys, how you doing? Ron Tonight here. Well, it's been a little while since I've posted a video on the S3 build. I actually had not done much since around 4th of July. I've been a lot of family stuff and holidays and everything. Although I love to build, I just had other things to do, but I'm back. And I have the S3 build moving along here. So what I got for you today is I'm going to start putting in the bending some tubing, some acrylic tubing. So I've got some here. I've got many more pieces than this, but bottom line is I've got to start bending the pieces to accommodate you know, each of the normal tubing runs. So I'll take you through quickly one here. Now, the coming out of the rad right here, this top rad, you know that if you've been watching the videos, the reservoirs are going to be sitting right up here. There's going to be dual reservoirs sitting on top, and then they're going to come down, and then they go into the pump, and they go into this top 280 rad. Comes out the bottom one across, and then comes out the top. So I've got to start my tubing then coming up into the rest of the build. So coming out of that radiator, the next stop is going to be at this point here, this the hard disk water block. So I've got to come up from the bottom through this window here and connect here, and then I got to come out of this guy here and go back through, and then come up to the in on this RAM block, and then out of the RAM block onto the CPU, out of the CPU then into the graphics card, and then out of the graphics card into the res. The res is up here. So that's the loop. Rad to HD block to RAM block to CPU to GPU, and then into the reses. All right. So what I'm going to do, the one that's going to have to come through this area here is going to be, it's going to take a little doing. It's going to be a number of bends. Now my plan is to try to do that, going from this rad to the CPU to the hard disk block with one piece, and so that's going to be a challenge, but I am going to do that. But what I'm going to start with now, for those of you who have not seen acrylic bending, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that, and I'll show you how I'm going to do it to go just simply from the RAM block to the CPU. All right, so I'm going to rejig the camera so you can get a closer look at what I'm going to do, and then I'll show you how I bend the tubing and get that one in there. Now for this run, what I've done here is I've taken a measurement about the middle point of this multi-link fitting, which is about 2 inches. So I've marked the acrylic tubing on that now. Now it's okay if this tube is too long. You can see the edges are rough and chipped and cut, but I'm going to polish them down, and I'll show you how I do that. And it's okay if it's too long, because it's better longer than not long enough, of course, because you can't add any more tube. So I have other pieces, obviously, and the first time you do this, you're probably going to go through a few. But anyway, so that's the plan right now, is to try to get the bend, and then I'll polish up the edges, because you can see the little rough and chipped, and they need to be smoother in order to work. So now I'll take you to the table and show you the tools that I'm using, or actually how I'm going to bend it, and then I'll show you how to clean it up. All right. All right, guys. So now what I'm going to do is show you how I cut the acrylic. Now, basically, what I've done is I've measured out the length that I want to go with, and I have here on this jigsaw a fine metal blade. That's what I found works the best for me. Now the problem here is this stuff will chip and crack and break, so I've measured it with a few extra inches so that I can trim it down if I need to. But basically, it's all about getting the right speed on the blade. If you go in too fast, it's going to crack. If you go too slow, it's going to jitter and break the tubing. So what I'm going to do now is I've marked a line on here. I'm going to cut underneath it, but I'm going to, maybe you'll hear the speed of the blade, but this is just the way I do it. Now I've tried a hand hacksaw, and that doesn't work for me. It just fractures the tubing too much. I get the cleanest cuts with this. So let's see how this one comes out. So that came out pretty good. All right, so all has to do, for me, it has a lot to do with the speed and of course a good blade. And I'm using just some Bosch blades, but this one specifically is a Bosch. I don't know if you can read it, but it's a Bosch T-metal blade. So here is the cut that I got on it. Right, and it needed to be trimmed down. So that was that's how you cut the tubing. All right, guys. In order to bend some acrylic, what you're going to need you're going to need the piece of acrylic that you want to bend, of course. And I'm using E22 tubing, and then you also need some rubber core. Now they do make a couple of different kinds. You can get them from various places. If you go to Performance PCs, they do sell the core as well, and they actually sell it on the E22 page. I believe that's this black one right here. I particularly like this. This is from McMaster Carr. This is some silicone core, but it's a little more flexible than this. Although you may want to have this more rigid stuff too, but either one will work. So bottom line, either one will work. Now, what you want to do is get your piece of tubing. I'm just going to show you how to do just a basic 90-degree bend on this tubing. I am going to put it into the S3. And so you need to have your core, and the key with the core is it's got to be the right diameter. You want it to be snug inside here, but not too light, because you want it to maintain the form of the acrylic tubing. So this is perfect size for this acrylic tubing. It fits right in there. I don't have to lubricate it at all. All I'm doing is just sliding it through. And so what you want to do then is put it through the tubing. You can use a marker or whatever to mark where you would like your bend to be, because you're going to have to keep that in mind when you bend it. What I tend to do is if I got critical bends like something like this, I do mark it with an indelible marker, tiny little mark, so I can see it, and then I scrape it off. But that's just the way I do it. You can, whatever works for you. Now the other thing you're going to need is a heat gun. This happens to be a Wagner heat gun that you can get at your local store, for home improvement store. This is for drying paint, but you can use a heat shrink gun. I actually use this for heat shrink, and you can buy attachments for many of them, so you can focus a heat on a particular area. Now I have tried this, but the one thing I will say, this definitely focuses the heat, but it puts too much in one area, and in very rare cases I wouldn't recommend it. I would just go with the overall opening that you have for your heat gun. Now this heat gun happens to have 3 settings. It's off, low, and high. And really what works the best is high, but what you want to do is maintain a good distance over the heat gun when you heat it up, so that you don't get any bubbling. If you heat it too closely, I don't know if you can see it, but on this bend here there's a little bubbles or blisters that occurred from too much heat. Now this will happen if you put it on the medium setting on this gun, and of course if you put it on the medium setting, it's not as hot, so it takes longer to heat up, and if you're not constantly rotating the tubing, it can cause little bubbles. Alright, so what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to go ahead and bend this. I'm just doing a 90-degree bend in the middle of this, and then I'm going to trim it down on either side in order to get it to fit in the spot I want to. So I'm going to set this on high, and then I'll show you, see if you can hear me. Now what I'm doing is I am rotating the tubing around to keep a nice even heat flow on it. I just keep spinning it, and you can do it. You don't have to spin it as fast as I'm doing it. Just what I do. And what will happen is it'll get really hot, and then you'll see I'll be able to start bending it. And you can rotate the whole core if you want to. Now the key is you want to heat it up all evenly there. You want to heat all sides of the tube, because as you bend it, certain portions of it will contract and the other portions have to stretch. If you just cool or you heat only one spot, like the underside, you're going to have a problem, and I'll show you that because in learning this, I'll show you what I learned. So right now I got it heated up. It's holding it pretty far away from it, although it is going to be hot up there. Alright, just keep heating it up. And you might see that I've already started to bend it just a little bit, but the key is to get it all nice and hot, as evenly as you can. And again, if you get it too close, you're going to get blistering. You don't want that. You have to have patience. Okay, so I'm getting good heat distribution, and I'm just slowly pulling the cord. And really, once you get it heated up to the right amount, it will just bend. Alright, so I have my 90-degree bend, and I'm taking it away from the heat. And I'm going to blow on it. Some people use fans. Let's see if I can turn off the heat. Alright, so I've got my bend. And right now I'm just holding it, letting it cool down. It is hot to the touch there. If you're using a smaller piece, you're trying to bend a smaller piece, you might want to get some gloves. You can use some gloves so that if you have to hold it by the area that you're bending, you won't burn your hands. Okay, it's still kind of hot, but it's much easier to touch. Now, what I was saying, if you have to have patience, you just got to keep rotating it, and you can see there are no blisters or bubbling at all, and the cord inside of the acrylic tubing, kept its shape, so it's got a nice, cool, rounded bend. But if you don't have patience and you only heat one side and you try then to bend it, it will bend, but what will happen is you'll get this effect where you'll get a big bend blister because you didn't heat it evenly. By heating it evenly, all of the molecules in that whole section will just go with the flow when you go to bend it. If you only heat one area, like I did here, sure, it'll bend, but what it did is it created like a disc, it's kind of like a blister disc. Now, the outside came out all right, but this is not what you want. So the key to that is to have patience and high heat, but hold it high enough above the heating unit, and then rotate it regularly. Try to get even heat as best you can on all sides of the bend. All right. So that is a 90-degree bend. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim it. I'm going to mark it and trim it down to fit onto the S3. So I'll show you how I do that as well, and the tools that I use. So the way I trim it down is I don't mess with any blades when it comes down to the shortening or trimming. I do use a thin metal jigsaw blade to cut the acrylic tubing, but that's to cut the big pieces down. When I want to shorten it up some, basically what I do is I use my Dremel with a sanding disc on it. So this is a piece of I don't know what the style is, but it's for polishing and grinding a little bit. It's a grinding stone, and what I do is I put it on its low setting, like a 2, and I'll just keep going around on this, and you push down low enough, it'll take off quite a bit of plastic. I don't know if you can see it spitting up, but all of this is just coming off. Clean it off. Now, if it's a really long, if you measured it really poorly, and you have to cut it, well, then then take a blade to it. But if you only got to go down a 1/4 of an inch or even a 1/2 inch, you can see, this blade will really, this grinding stone will really do a number on this acrylic. And you can just do it in, little bit by bit. All right, so I have it down some, and actually I'm going to polish off this guy here around where that crack is. I'm going to check it and see if it's at the right height now. One of the things I highly recommend is you wear safety glasses if you're not wearing any, wear some kind of eye protection, because it will shoot off little bits of plastic that could get in your eye. I am wearing glasses right now, so. We're almost there. You can see that it's just about, so it still needs to come down a little bit more, and before it'll actually fit inside of that guy here, and it will go in. All right, so we got it to the right height and the right depth, and it connects right into this one right here. And so now there'll be another right angle fitting like this one over here sticking out, so that it comes down, and it actually is going to come from the top of this block. So I've got to get another right angle. I'll put it here, and then I'm going to multi-link fitting coming out, and then I got to take a measurement and figure out the bend to come up, and then I'm going to have to bend it again to go into the block. So that's going to be interesting, but that's part of the modding game. So let's see how it works. So again, it's going to come from here, then go underneath these bundles here probably, and then find its way up right here and go into, it's going to go up and into a 90-degree fitting right here. So that'll be the next one I do. And I guess I'm saving the really challenging one for the end. I don't know that I'm going to show you any of that, but basically that's the technique. And here's a look at it from the other side. I got to take it out and clear out any of the little shavings that I have in there, but here we have some fitting bent, and still many to do. Okay, now that we have this piece coming from the RAM block to the CPU block in place, I'm going to now do the acrylic piece that goes from the hard drive over and up to the in on the RAM block. In order to do that, I can go with another 90-degree right here, and then I have to turn him in this way, and let's see, that actually may hit that top there, so I'm going to have to do something with a little bit of a, let's see, I can either do it like this, come down, probably, and since I'm bending it, I can actually control the bend. Oops, dropped it. Or I put a triple rotary in there, which gives me a little more leeway. So I've got, and here's a triple rotary. That might be better. I don't know. I think I might try the 90 degree. Let's keep this out of the way. I might try the 90 degree and then have the tubing go down on an angle a little bit and then come up, because this actually brings it out pretty far, although that would work, but it's I don't know, I don't like that as much as just a 90. So here, let's take that off. The 90 with the multi-link for the tubing, and then the plan is to alright, so it's a little bit, I don't know if you can see, it's a little bit of on a down angle, so it makes it through here. Alright, so I have some tubing in there, and then I just I have to, a long enough piece that I can make the bend to come up. Alright, so that's the plan. It's going to come through just like that. And since I have this on wheels, you can see this piece is not long enough, but I'm going to put a bend here to come up, and then we'll have another 90 degree. And so I have another 90 degree here, and the plan then would be to have this guy facing out. With the multi-link adapter there, and so we'll have it bent coming up and then bent back in. Now if the bend gets too difficult for me, obviously another way to do it is just to make a straight, when the bend comes straight up, I could put another 90 or get a couple of other rotaries to point it straight down, but I'm going to give it a shot so it's nice and clean. So it's going to come out like this and then go straight up. Alright, so that's the plan. Let's see how well I can execute that bend. Alright, so the bending's coming out pretty good. Take a look inside here. You can see I actually have the tube coming out of the top of the hard disk and bent up going into the RAM block. So you see I've got two pieces there. The next one I'm going to do now is I'm going to bend the piece that goes from the bottom down here from the rad, and it comes up and then goes up and through, and it'll come out and go right here to this bottom one, just like this one does here. Okay, so you see now, you just saw the bend coming from the RAM block into the CPU. Then we have, I guess, start at the bottom, see if I got the lighting right. So starting out from coming out of the rad, we come up with a couple of bends and then up and through to the hard disk. So it comes out here into the hard disk, and then coming out of the hard disk we come over and we go up and we go into the RAM block, and then of course out of the RAM block into the CPU. So the next piece of tubing that we're going to have to do is the coming out of the CPU to the GPU, but I'm going to have to put the water block on the GPU and then get it set in there. And really, probably now that we've got the tubing together, let me get the reservoirs mounted and make sure they're all aligned properly. And so because after we get the GPU, and then I got to do a run from where the GPU will be, the output of that into the reservoirs there. So that's the next pieces that I'll be showing you. Alright, so where we're at now is I'm trying to do my best to dress these cables, because we're almost at the point of putting, finalizing the reservoirs and getting that graphics card in there and tubing that up. But so what I've been doing now is dealing with the cable management. Now, since I custom made cables, I made them as short as I could because the power supply is right here and they really only need to take a short hop up here. So going to the motherboard, you can see I have the EPS cables here run. They come down, and remember I'm going to have a window on this side, on all sides basically of this S3. But because I have the windows there, I needed to, I wanted to do a nice as I could neat job of cables. So the EPS cables I have dressed here going under the motherboard because that side panel is going to be here. Then they come down and they go to the the custom plug connections to the power supply. Now I also did the two SSDs. They're going to be in RAID 0. I have them plugged into SATA 0, 1, and 0 and 1. And I did a custom sleeving on those cables, some heat shrink, and then they go down and around. And I also have the USB 3.0 from the front panel, and I had to put some sleeving on that and then snake that through. So you've got a lot of cables here. I did use some gray because the color theme in this really is black and gray, or gray, silver, and a little bit of blue, but I don't have any blue on this side. Then over here I've got a couple of LEDs, UV LEDs that are coming through the case. So they come from the CPU block and that's from the RAM block. And then they all kind of come together in this swoop here, and I'll try to do a better job of managing that because you're going to see that. I don't think that looks that bad. Then you've got this big loop from the USB 3.0, and this from this view here is where it gets kind of crazy. Because the power connections are all right here, they all waterfall down here. I do have some tubing here that's in front of it, and from the side you can't really see it too much. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but there's only so many, there's not really much that you can do with hiding a lot of these cables. Now as far as organizing it better, I am going to try to dress them up a little bit better than I have down here, but they go to straight runs down there. Now the power cable is unique because Seasonic splits the power from the 24 pin going into this motherboard up here down into two connectors, so they crisscross. So what I've done is my best here to try to keep the color scheme together, the black, the blue, the gray, the black, the gray, the blue, and then again back into some black. So I'll mess with that a little bit more. Then other than that, I have to deal with the temp probe coming from part of the loop in the bottom, so that I still have to dress. I have the front panel cables drooped down here, so they're going to come down, and I'll get some double-sided clips, tape that'll hold them in place. The USB 3 doesn't have much of a choice. It's only so long, and I wanted to hide it as best I could, so it's going to come down around here and then come through. So that's the cable management piece. So I'm going to tidy some of these guys up. Then over on this side, it's pretty clean. On this side here, you just have the power and the probe cables coming through right here, so I'll take care of those. I did have to custom make a power cable and the the power cable and the SATA cable and sleeve them for this power supply. So all it is a straight run from the hard drive right to the power supply into its own connector. So, and those had to be right angle and short connectors, so I was able to do those. What you don't see is the power and the SATA for the SSDs that are in the stealth tray. So thank goodness I have those underneath the motherboard tray, because you can hide them underneath this waterfall here of the 24-pin power. Imagine had I used this to put SSDs, there would have been a ton more cables coming out. So I think it looks pretty clean on this side. I think it's going to look nice with the GPU and the water block there, and I'm going to show you that I actually changed my mind in the water block that I'm going to use, so I'll show you that in a little bit. But right now what I want to do is finish up the wiring, making it as neat as I can, and then we'll get the GPU card and the water block on it so I can run tubing to it, and then we're going to finish up with the reservoirs. But one of the things I think that I want to make sure I do is I want to make sure the reservoirs are nice and even. So I'm going to go ahead and actually put the reservoirs back in now and make sure that they are straight, and so I don't have to mess with it once I have the GPU in and got the GPU tubed up. So we're getting there. Alright guys, I've got the reservoirs installed now and lined up, so they're good that way. Oh, I just pushed them around a little bit. But they're also aligned up. A couple of twin reses there. Looking good in that spot. I've got all the cables dressed up. I actually was able to minimize and get rid of a lot of the stuff that was crisscrossing over there. But you really can't see it. It looks pretty good. And I got shrink tubing on everything else now. Alright guys, before I put together the graphics card, what I wanted to do is get the fittings up together on the top of the reservoirs. Now you see down here I have a bunch of these bits power basically blocks, Q blocks or L blocks. And that's what I put together to make that T down there. I'm going to do something similar up top, although I think I want to have some coolant flowing between them. So let me actually show you a little bit closer. You see I have three ports to be able to put things in. Now one of them I already aligned up inside the reservoirs is and in the center of both, so that that nickel plated tube is in the same spot, these back here. And so I'm going to bring the coolant through these guys, so it's going to pass through this one and deposit in here. And so I'm going to put my plan is to put a couple of those blocks with a piece of tubing in between the two there. And then these ones is going to be a plug. One of these will be a plug, or I'll use to fill with. And I think both of them are just going to be plugs because the return is going to come in on top of these guys here. Yeah, so right now that's the plan. Let me see what I have in my bag of bits power fittings here to put together there. So let me dig out a few pieces, and then I'll show you how it looks, what I come up with. Alright, so what I did is I got a T block here, and I have a L block here, and then I have a couple of Silver Shiny multi-link mini adapters, and let's see, take a look from this side. You can see that this port is open, so we're going to come out of here into the graphics card, and then out of the graphics card around into here, and then that'll drop the coolant down into the reservoirs. Now I used the mini link because there's not a lot of pressure, or shouldn't be coming through here. We'll see. And it has only one O-ring inside these mini links, whereas the larger ones have two O-rings. But up in this area here, I think I'm going to be safe with that being the return. So anyway, so those of you who want to know what I used, that is the packet and part number for the Silver Shining multi-link adapter, the mini. That's what I have, two of those up there. And then this is the Silver Shining L block, and that's this guy here. I could use a T, but then I would have had to put a plug in it, like I did like down here. Actually, that right there is those are two T's with plugs in the ends. So and then this guy over here, that is the T block up at the top there. So all right, so now last thing to do is mount the graphics card there with the water block on it, and finish up the tubing and bending, and then I think we have this unit assembled. Alright, so we're now at the point where we need to get the graphics card in and finish up the acrylic tubing run from the CPU block to the graphics card, and then out of the graphics card over to the twin reservoirs over there. So let's take a look at the GPU and the water block we'll be using. Now, if you've been following my build, I originally did have a GTX Titan, and if you see here, actually this is a GTX 780. This is a Gigabyte GTX 780. the N780D5-3GD-B. Basically, obviously, it looks the same. If you've been reading up on the specs of this, it runs, it has half the memory, but it runs, pretty damn close to what a Titan does, especially for gaming. And since this system will be, it's kind of a showpiece gaming, it won't be used regularly for now. I've decided to save the Titan and put it inside of my STH10 rig, my main system that's currently going to be getting a bunch of upgrades. That's going to get a couple of dual Titans. But so for this build, for the S3, I'm going to go with the 780. Now, it doesn't change the aesthetic look that I was planning to go with. I originally had this EK block, FC Titan block, that I was going to put on the Titan. And if you haven't seen this block, so while this block does fit the color scheme and it's a pretty sharp looking block, one of the things that I thought about it, well, number one, it says FC Titan on it, and now I'm putting a 780 in there, so that's not cool. And the other thing too is this block would be here, so it does leave some of the PCB open on either side, the front and the back portion of the card. So so I thought long and hard about going to a fuller length block for the Titan at first, and now that I'm going with a 780, basically same thing. And let me show you what I have planned. There you go. How about that? This is a brand new Bits Power VG-NGTX 780. It's a nickel with acrylic top. It is a full block covering the whole GPU, and I like the fact that not only is it full and it has all the nice acrylic and you see the chambers, the black from the gasket inside there stands out really nice. It does have the logo on here, but I like that they have this this bracket here on the front that has basically the same silver, shiny silver coloring that the fittings and that the case has. So I think this will look much better than the Titan block that I had. I mean, again, both of them are nice blocks, but I really think this is going to look good, and this will fill up that space. And remember, my side windows are full. I have full side panel windows, and actually on that side of the case I also have that Bits Power hard disk block that so this will fit in fine with the with that side of the case, and I think this is going to look better on top of this GPU, the 780. So let's get to it. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to install the NGTX 780 Bits Power block onto a Gigabyte GTX 780. So inside of the package, the accessory pieces that you get with this water block, you get a Allen head tool, you get 15.5 millimeter plastic spacers that are in that bag there, you get 16 2.5 millimeter screws, and then you get plenty of thermal pads. These are 0.5 millimeter thermal pads, and a couple of shiny silver plugs right here, and then a couple of O-rings, and they actually also give you another O-ring that if I guess is as a backup if you need it for the water block. Now the installation guide is also right here, and nowhere does it state that you have to use these, so I'm assuming that they gave these to you as a backup in case you need to replace them. Alright, first thing we're going to do here is we've got to disassemble this GTX 780. Now this is the Gigabyte reference design of the GTX 780, and we have here the very nice same body design of the air cooler as the Titan, and on the top you have the GeForce GTX logo along with the Gigabyte sticker that they put on there. Now one of the first things you want to do to remove the air cooler the stock air cooler is to remove these two screws that you have on the end right here. 1, 2. So we're going to take those off, and then basically you're going to remove all of the rest of the screws that are on the back of the board holding in the air cooler to the front. And there are about 17, I believe if I counted right, 17 of them that you have to take out. Now the tools that you need to do that on this Gigabyte board, you'll need a jeweler's Phillips head screwdriver. So there are some that are Phillips, and then you also need a tiny Torx bit. So I have both of those here. And now what I'm going to do is proceed to remove all of the screws. And then one other thing you got to remember is there is the LED and the fan that are powered. So there's a connector in there, or a couple of connectors that you're going to have to remove. So here I go. I'm going to go ahead and start disassembling it and play you a little bit of music while I fast forward through this. So now that we have all the screws removed, I'm just slowly prying the air cooler off of it. I'm just rocking it a little bit back and forth, and basically now you have just to remove the power connection for the GeForce GTX LED on the top there. And then once we lift it off a little more, we see the power connection for the fan and the cooler there. So, and now what I'm going to do here is I need to remove these thermal pads, the factory ones, and I'm going to put them back in the same spots on the cooler, and then wrap that up and protect it in case I ever have to return it. And then we'll get to the point where we're going to clean off that thermal interface material and start the assembly with the new water block. So enjoy some more music. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is remove the thermal paste off of the CPU, and I'm going to use some just isopropyl 99.9% pure alcohol first to clean it off. Get all the big stuff off of it. And then what I'm going to do is follow up with some Articlean thermal material remover, and then I'll finish it off with some purifier. Now the next thing I'm going to do is got to get the thermal pads out. So I'm going to go ahead and these pads are all the same thickness. I'm going to go ahead and cut these and then place them on those. Okay, I have the thermal pads now applied on all of the areas that are required, and I did use a little bit of thermal paste underneath each one just to make sure that it stays in place when I put the block on. Hopefully I don't have to reorient it. Before I go on, one of the things I wanted to show you on the thermal pads that you get with the Bits Power block. The pads have two skins on either side of the pad, so you got to get both of them off. Before you apply your thermal pad to your GPU or to your chips. So that is just a sample of what, when it's done properly, what it looks like. Alright, so I didn't show you that because it takes a while, as you can see, to peel it off. And so everything's applied now. Now it's time to put some thermal compound on the GPU before I put the block on. And it does, the NGTX 780 block comes with some Arctic silver ceramic too, but I prefer to use, this is newer, MX4 compound, and that's what I use to tack down some of the other ones. So what I'm going to do is put some of that on here. Now, I typically put it in an X on a GPU, but the way I saw it applied on this guy here was spread. So I'm actually just I'm gonna put some on here, and I'm gonna spread it. Nice and thin layer, but I'm gonna spread it. And I have my thermal compound spreading card. I need to get one of those paddles. So there we have it. We have the card assembled with the Bits Power VGN GTX 780 acrylic block on there, acrylic nickel plexi, and it's a really beautiful block. I think it's going to look great up in the top of the S3 there. One thing that I am going to order is a backplate for this. I do have a Titan backplate, and I already lined it up. So I do know that it will fit, but it says Titan on it. I just want one that says NVIDIA, and make sure that it also will work. So I'm going to install that on here as well. But for now, it's going into the system like this, and so we can get going with tubing up the rest of the S3. And by the way, guys, if you want this block, you can pick this up at Performance PCs. That's where I got it from. They have just about everything that you would need for water cooling your systems, and they always get the latest and greatest gear that came out. And I picked this up as soon as I saw it, right when Performance PCs posted it. So by all means, if you want some awesome blocks and anything you can think of for your PC, go to Performance PCs. So there it is, installed. And now what we're going to do is arrange for some tubing. Yeah, it's definitely going to look better with the back plate. It needs to have that plain black background to contrast some of this gray and silver. So that's coming. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and run the block, the acrylic tube from here over to here, although I think I'm going to come out, I'm not sure, going to come out with a bend and go down, put a right angle on here, just come out with a right angle, but I'm still going to have to come over this way. So yeah, let me think about that, and then we'll get a tube there. So there we have it, guys. We've got the Bits Power VG and GTX 780 water block on the Gigabyte GTX 780. I think it looks great there, and we also have the acrylic tubing now coming out of the block going into the reservoirs. And then on the back side here, you can see I have the coming out of the GPU, coming out of the CPU and going into the GPU. And that tubing is ready, so the only thing I need to wait for now is the back plate for the GPU. I have that nice black background there, look much better. So before I do any filling or leak checking, I need to get that plate so I can get that on the GPU and be ready to rock and roll. So here's just a quick look around of all the acrylic tubing. One of the things, I guess what I'll do real quick is take you through an acrylic run. So coming out of the rad, it comes up through the base into the upper section, and right there going into the bottom portion of the hard disk block. Comes out of the hard disk block and then goes back into the case behind the reservoirs, and then comes up and goes into the RAM block, and then out of the RAM block and into the CPU, then out of the CPU into the GPU, out of the GPU, into the top portion of the reservoirs, and then split and fed down into the reses, and then back to this T, and then start all over again. So there we go, guys. That's it. Sorry it took me so long to get this video out, but it's here. We got all of the acrylic tubing now bent and in place. We have did the quick change for the Titan to the 780, but we have that new block on there, the ITX 780 from Bits Power. Nice clear acrylic block that I think looks great in that top spot there. So that's it for this video. I hope that you liked it. If you did please like and favorite. And if you're so inclined, please subscribe. Now, I will have to first of all thank Case Labs for sponsoring the S3 case. It's awesome with all the accessories, and especially with the pedestal. If you ever want to build a monster mini ITX rig, well, that's the way to go. And if you don't need the pedestal and you just want to go with a nice ITX build, you can't beat that S3 case. It does have a lot of space in there for even how small it is, and then all of the windows, which you'll see finished in the next video on that, really gives you quite a few options for showing off stuff in that rig. I also need to thank Performance PCs for sponsoring many of the pieces that are in here, and also just for being there, because all of the just about everything else that I need for this build I bought from Performance PCs. They were my one-stop shop. I can go to and pick up just about anything I need for any of my builds, and especially when it comes to water cooling. So thank you, Performance PCs. And then I also have a couple of new sponsors. Mike Woods from Mayhem's sent me some Mayhem's X1 UV Clear Blue, and that's definitely going into this build. And I may use the blueberry. There's some pastel blueberry there as well that he sent me. But if not, I'm using that in the next build. So you will see the next build coming up that will have some Mayhem's coolants. Pretty much the only coolant that I've been using for most of my builds here recently. They've been great. So thanks again to Mayhem's. Thanks, Mike. And then down in front of that, especially for the UV, those are some UV LEDs that he provided to me so that I can custom fit inside this build. You know that cable management and space is of the most important thing to manage in there. So he sent me some UV lights that are going to be really, really good in this build and very bright. And that is Ben Rue over at Promethean Mutations. So thanks again, Ben, for sponsoring those LEDs. You'll see all of that in the next video. So again, guys, if you like this video, please like and favorite. And if you're so inclined, please subscribe. And that's it from Ron's a Nut. Thanks for watching.